Hi, welcome to my YouTube channel. If this is your first time, welcome to the channel. Today, I'll be interviewing a renowned personality in the communication space. His name is Papa Arkhust, and I'll let him do a brief introduction of what he does. Papa, welcome. Welcome to my channel. Audience, meet Papa Arkhust.
Thank you very much, Rafali. So my name is Papa Arkhust. I like to describe myself as a connector, an optimist, an optimizer, and a leadership enthusiast. And what I do is I build teams, I build leaders, and I build communicators.
Thank you very much, Papa, for the brief introduction. On this channel, before we started the channel, we sent out a survey and we had a number of people giving us feedback that they were not too sure of the information that they get on the internet. So before we start, you'd have to take a little pledge with us. Please raise up your hand and then repeat after me. I promise to say the whole truth.
I promise to say the whole truth.
Nothing but the truth.
Nothing but the truth.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Okay. So Papa, in just 5 minutes, can you give us a brief description or history about how your childhood was?
Well, I was born in Nigeria, so I experienced what it feels like to be an outsider, I guess, because I was a Ghanaian boy growing in a Nigerian environment. I had a very present mother and father, so a lot of my ideals that I built, I learned from them. I transitioned to Ghana at about the age of 7 or 8 and experienced what it felt like to be a foreign, should I say, Nigerian boy in a Ghanaian environment. I also thought of myself as an outsider. I did primary school. I had some good schools that I went to, both University Primary, Legon, and Cape Coast. Then I ended up in Mfantsipim. So yes, I was caught up in the whole old school hype that Ghanaians are very excited about. I then transitioned to sixth form in another school called Labone, because at that point, I actually got into university outside, but unfortunately, due to visa issues, I was not able to move to the US like I planned to. But after sixth form, I transitioned to the US for my undergrad. Then from my undergrad, came back to Ghana, and I felt a certain, well, I actually started my master's, but I didn't finish. I came for a 2-week holiday and I stayed. And I felt a strong desire to join the public service because I wanted to give back. From the public service, I worked for about 12 years. And then I went to do my master's in between in South Korea, which has also made a huge impression on me. And somewhere around 2007, I transitioned out of the public service. And I've been working for myself since then.
Okay, thank you, Papa, for the insightful information about your childhood. But we would also want to know how your career projection has been. Where did you start from, and then where are you now? Can you just give us a brief history on how you got into the current career that you are in?
So that's actually a very tricky question because I don't consider what I'm doing a career. I consider what I'm doing a calling. My career actually started from a passion, or should I say rather a lack of passion. So when I was young, I was one of those, well, when I was young, I was considered stubborn. When I grew older, they called it strong-willed. So it depends on which lenses you're looking through. But I was one of those people that never really could engage with anything if it did not excite me. And so even though my mother tried as much as possible, tried to be accommodative, I tried so many different fields and I found them very boring. So I start them, I get bored, I get out. I tried accounting, I tried a number of different things while doing science in school. I think the one thing that was able to keep my attention, because it changed so quickly, was computer science. And so I went to school to study computer science, and I'll say I started a career in computer science. And my background was in technology all the way to my master's. So in the public service, I was actually in IT. And for my master's, I did what we call E-govenance, which is basically using technology tools to help citizens engage with government. So if you want to talk about career, then that's my career. My career is in technology. It's using all the different facets, creating, supporting, connecting different tools to ensure that the citizen or that people or the customer can engage with data or can engage with the provider through the right tool. So I've done a bit of networking, I've done a bit of database design, I've done a bit of data management. In fact, I was part of the group that, I've worked on many national biometric projects, GIFMIS, IPPD2, which is the national payroll, National Identity Authority, NIA, the transition of their systems, biometric passports, and so forth and so on, right? So if you want to call me an expert career-wise, that is where it is. E-governance, right? Electronic governance. And so I'm very privy to a lot of the things and the transitions that are currently happening in that space. Now, when I say calling is much more tied to a specific purpose, which I believe you were designed to come to this earth for. And so I came across this organization called Toastmasters when I was in Korea, in South Korea, and this was between 2010 to 2011. And it solved a nagging question that I'd had for a while. How do we resolve the issue of leadership? How do we get Ghanaians to communicate more appropriately? And recently, how do we build better teams? And this organization put me on a path to discovering what I believe was within me all this while. And for me, I think that's when I woke up and realized, you know what? I need to be in my calling as opposed to my career. See, careers, you can be passionate about careers, but bottom line, careers are something that you grow to feel fulfilled with, has to bring you some sort of income, it has to take care of you, it's a measure of success sometimes in the superficial world. A calling, however, I believe is much more deep-seated. It is connected to your why of existence. And so money has very little to do with it. Remuneration has very little to do with it. It's more of a service to the world and something you need to give. Now, some of the benefits of calling is that it does project value, and because of value, you get more return. I believe it's Robert Sharma who said beautifully, he says, in awareness, do we grow and make better choices? And when we make better choices, we attract better results. And so when you get into your calling, it's really your calling, it connects you to a world beyond this one, where you get gifts that you didn't even know imaginable. Because you see, the human being has been designed with talents and gifts and all these special tools and skills for you to fulfill your calling. And for me, that calling is what you're now describing me as, that communicator, that leader, that team builder. It's all part of my calling. And so I love to connect. And anytime, any day, whether I'm paid for it or not, I appreciate connecting people. I'm always optimistic. I like to optimize people by building teams, building leaders, building communicators. And I'm very enthusiastic about leadership because I understand that everything rises and falls on it. So that is more of a calling. So I hope I've been able to separate the two.
Yes, Papa. So I like the fact that you have the technical background and then you're now doing communication. So my thing is, I would concentrate on both careers because since you started in technology, we have a number of people who are in technology who have difficulty with communication as well. So looking at someone who wants to be in tech and then also be a good communicator, right? If the person wanted to start their career, what advice would you give them, or what are the things that you think, if you are a techie person, maybe there are certain programs that the person should do or skills that they have to get to excel in tech, and then other skills that they need to build to be a good communicator?
Well, first and foremost, never get into technology because you think you can make money. It's the wrong mindset. You may make money, you may be good, but you will never be great. You need to get into it because you understand and appreciate it. So that's the first thing I would say. If you're going to get into technology, make sure that you understand what technology is. Technology is basically an enabler and an automator. It can drive process, it can drive business, but fundamentally, it's an enabler and an automator. So to apply technology, you must understand the environment you're applying the technology to. And so you don't go in just saying, you know what, I like to code, so I'm going to code. When you do that, you're cut off from the world. You don't go in and say, oh, this business needs this system, so let me go and build it. Because you need to understand the environment that you're building for, so you can properly build the right systems for it. Otherwise, you're going to be a loggerhead. Secondly, technology doesn't exist for just itself. Technology exists, like I said, to automate processes, to connect people, and so forth and so on. So you need to be able to engage with the people and the processes that you're designing the technology for, which is why communication is important. Because if you can't speak the language, then what you will need is eventually somebody will have to be your boss always, who can do the translation for you. And you can always only be in the back room, right? So that's another thing. So when you're starting, first and foremost, I'll say find classes that teach you the fundamentals of technology. Don't just pick up a book and say, for example, start programming. I was lucky. I was trained on how to think as a programmer. And so whatever language, if I pick it up and I want to learn on my own, I can learn on my own because I understand the fundamentals of programming or understand the fundamentals of development, as opposed to those who learn to just the language and how to apply the language. When you just learn the language, what happens is every other language you have to learn is a tough task. But when you understand the fundamentals of programming, it's just a syntax translation type of thing, right? It's like the way we understand the fundamentals of speaking, and then we use languages. So if I don't even speak a particular language, I can quickly translate and say, because I understand the fundamentals of speaking. The other thing is, I would say don't only rely on, so for example, if you're a university student, don't rely only on what you learn in class. Try as much as possible. So these days, the generation these days are lucky. You know, in our time, Google wasn't out there yet. I remember when Google came, I was one of the first people to get a Gmail address. So if you look at my email address, it's my last name at Gmail. That was before it became open commercially. And that was even when I was in the US, right? So before that, we didn't have those Google options, right? And so we didn't have the option of finding everything that we wanted on YouTube and so forth and so on like we do now. But now you do. And so you have no excuse. When you learn from class, come home and spend a lot of time on the internet researching as well. One of the things I learned very early in college is for every hour you spend in class, spend about 3 hours out of class around that class. So you spend as much time reading around the subject as opposed to the time you spend in class, so that you open your breadth of knowledge. Thirdly, I would say try to make your experience as practical as possible. So if you're learning coding in class, find yourself a computer, set up a virtual box, and start working. Try everything, experiment, create, right? Don't wait until you're getting into the workforce before you start learning how to code. Same with hardware. If you're doing a hardware class, go buy an old computer system, break it apart, start learning how to figure it out. If you're doing a networking in school, set up a small network at home. You know, they are simple secondhand, you know, or when you go on some of these Craigslist and things, you can find some secondhand tools that you can use. Invest in your education. If you're just waiting for mommy and daddy to pay for everything and go to school, you're not going to be highly functional, or you're not going to be very competitive. So those are some of the things that I'll talk about. The fourth thing, let me move into communication, is you need to learn to engage with people. I remember when I was younger and I was spending a lot more time coding, I was cut off from the world. See, when I'm in code mode, I'm not really excited about talking to people, which people find very interesting because a lot of people think I'm very extroverted. When I'm in code mode, I'm actually pretty introverted. You know, I don't really want to be around people. I just want to be in my code. But you need to learn to balance the two. Otherwise, you're going to miss out because, like I said, you're not coding in isolation. Everything that you're doing for people. So you need to learn how to engage with people. You need to learn how to talk to people. You need to learn how to interface with people. Yeah. So the communication is just as important. I mean, one of the greatest companies today, I'm sure we'll all admit, when it comes to technology or when it comes to innovation, is Apple. But one of the things that nobody can deny is the passion and the eloquence with which the founder, Steve Jobs, used to talk about his products. You know, so he shared his product. He told a story about his product that made the world enjoy and connect with it. It's very important. If you can't do that, then you're not really going to be able to connect with the world, right? So even though you may be taking a career in computer science or whatever it is, I think it's very important that you also understand how to communicate what it is that you're doing in a language that the rest of the world understands. The final thing I'll talk about, since really my master's was in e-governance, is I think the public service is exciting, not just to work there, even though I believe everybody should do at least a year or two in the public service so they understand how the country runs. But I think it's also exciting because all the things that citizens want that they feel government is not hearing them on can really be solved with the right communication tools. And technology gives the platform for the citizens to speak up. And so things like the online passports, things like e-Ghana, things like being able to pay your taxes online, things like different forums of social media that we use to engage with our government or with our leaders are very critical tools to give the citizen a voice. And as a technologist, your ability to think around platforms like that, to create and develop platforms like that, to give the citizens a voice, is actually not only a civic duty, not only something that you should be proud of, but it's also a way to gain fulfillment, right? So to wrap this up, let me just say that start with a view to use whatever it is you want to learn to impact the world. Figure out where it makes sense to you and where the most passion is, and learn around the subject, read around it, read around people who've done it and done it well, so that you can also be significant and different as opposed to just toeing the line. I know a lot of people who claim to be computer scientists, and I would say have no tech bone in their body. I also know people who are doing absolute genius stuff, right? And the difference is by, first of all, being clear about why you're getting into technology, understanding how to communicate your story, and engaging with the right people who can give you the platform to do better.
Okay. Thank you, Papa. That was very, very insightful. But I have a question, right? In your speech, you said for someone to be very good at computer science or their education, they need to do more than do a number. When they go to school, they have to do more outside their school work, right? So for someone who needs to pay for other stuff, I think for outside Ghana, we have those platforms where people can actually go and then get side gigs and all that. But in Ghana, we are trained to be very one way or one-sided, right? So for someone who wants to actually follow this path, right? Is there anything that you would encourage the person to do to be able to since you can't always rely on your parents, be able to get some side gigs or get some monies in such a way that it doesn't really affect your schooling as well?
So first and foremost, I didn't say make money.
Okay.
I said you need to do stuff outside of class. So I meant even if it's reading, it's stuff. Or you can even start an association with some friends where you guys code and share technology and share hardware together. If you look at the movie The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind, which is based on a true story of a Malawian boy who created a windmill to save his village, you'd realize that he had friends that he shared his idea with. He stole into libraries that he couldn't even pay for to get information from books that he read. His friends shared all sorts of things, got his father's bicycle motor and all those things to get this thing done. So it's not always having to make money. I recently even gave out 2 computers that were old to one of my former helpers and then somebody else because I didn't have any use for them. So there are people who have things that they even want to throw away. If you start connecting and asking, you might find somebody who's willing to give you, right? Most of the time, people are asking for basic things like food and let me try and do this, so I need money to go and buy some tickets, when they can be looking at things that can help their career, okay? Secondly, even if you want to get a job, most of the time, try to get a free internship. Most companies are more happy to give free internships than to pay, because when they have to pay, because it's a budget, they have to really figure out, are you worth it and what are you bringing to the table? But if it's free, a lot of times companies are ready to take a risk for it. Now that free can open doors for you much later. So I remember recently in one of my mentorship platforms, I had a Goldman Sachs lady come and talk to my mentees. Now this lady who now works in Goldman Sachs and is doing well, started as an intern You know, her first gig was with me while I was in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. She wasn't being paid anything. She came to do an internship there. And I remember I asked her certain questions. I was shocked when she raised those questions, you know, with the people, because she remembers clearly. I remember I asked her, what do you want to do in future? She said she wants to work with Google. And I asked her, what do you have and what have you done that will get you to Google? And that started her thinking about how she wants to move her career. You see what I'm saying? And I challenged her to go write some code. She came back with a code. I told her, do you think this is Google level? You see what I mean? Those kind of questions, that type of exposure gets you to start moving towards a particular path. If you don't expose yourself in that particular environment, you may not be ready when the time comes, okay? I have another young person I'm mentoring. He also, you know, because he doesn't come from a place of means, is trying to find something to make some money to help his family. But I have cautioned him that he should be careful, because you see a lot of times people try to make money early in fields that have nothing sometimes to do with the field that they are going into. And so by the time their colleagues who've been doing the internships for free come out, they are exposed to getting better jobs, and these people still have to be hustling and grinding, and they leave them way apart. So sometimes we have to be mindful about that. We need to move from just being from a scarcity mentality, and I appreciate that, yes, things are not easy, to an abundance mentality where you try to make the extra to set yourself apart and set your future apart. So these are some of the things I'm talking about. But yeah.
Thank you so much, Papa. I've learned so much from this interview. I've gotten to know you better, and I've also learned what you do, and I see where your passion comes from, right? So in the next stage of the interview would be for you to provide certain contact details in case we have individuals who want to contact you directly for information about communication technology. And are you also open to mentor new people so that they can also reach out to you directly?
So for the last question, unfortunately, no, I have my hands full with a lot of mentees right now. And to make sure that I'm giving the right quality to the people that I'm mentoring, I'd like to keep it focused right now. Now, regarding the second one, trying to reach out to me, they should find a Toastmasters club. I'm much more open to engaging those who've gone through the process. And the issue is, when you get to a certain stage in your life, you become, the quality of time is much more important than superficiality. And so I'm very, very, very calibrated about those I spend time with. No disrespect to anybody. And so a lot of times, by the time I meet you, I want to spend time with you, I need to know that you're serious and you should have gone through the process. So for example, if I meet somebody who's already a Toastmaster, I'm more likely and more disposed to want to spend time with that person than somebody who claims that they want to start and will probably waste the next year or two of my life just asking questions that they're not willing to do or take action on. Okay, so I'd rather they've gone through the process and been vetted. Then when I spend time with them, I know it's quality time, right? I've done the reach out and everybody reach out to me and put my number in the domain. I've done it for over 20 years, but I think now I want to concentrate on people who are serious so that I can make much more impact, right? So that's what I'll say to the second question and the first question. So if they want to reach out to me, go through the Toastmasters process, or they can reach out to me through you. And maybe if you vet them, I'll consider connecting with them.
Okay, so just to put it here so that we'll have a middle ground. In case there are any questions that you want to ask Papa, and you can just put it in the comment section. I'll reach out to him.
Subscribe to your channel. Subscribe to your channel. Put the questions there before I get them for you. If they are excited enough, maybe I'll reach out and go come find them myself.
Okay. Papa, I will hold you to that.
No problem.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you so much for staying tuned to my channel. This is the end of the interview, and thank you so much, Papa, for making time to give us these nuggets of wisdom, right? So as you always know, I'll be posting new videos every Sunday, and then you should also subscribe and hit on the notification icon so that every time I post a new video, you are made aware. You are the first to know about any hot new interview on the channel. Thank you so much, and bye. Bye.